Welcome back. You're watching Citizen TV special coverage of KCSE 2018 results. They should be out in the next few minutes. We don't know exactly when, but of course the setup is ready for the Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed to make her way to the Kenya National Examinations Council. My name is Sam Gituko and I'm with my guest Amos Kaburu as well as Dr. Andrew Riechi from the University of Nairobi. And we want to begin from some earlier pictures that we have of the Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed and her team going to State House to brief President Uhuru Kenyatta. You can see there, of course, the chairperson of the Kenya National Examinations Council, Professor George Magoha, the Chief Executive Officer of NEC, that is the lady by the name Karongo, as well as CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Teacher Service Commission, Nancy Macharia, Principal Secretary for Basic Education, Dr. Belio Kipsang, and so many other officials from the Kenya Curriculum KCSE, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, shaking hands there. So we never used to see this in earlier regimes, but now for, I believe, the third year, we are seeing the Cabinet Secretary for Education going to brief the President on examination results. This is a tradition that came after that chaotic examination season that was overseen by former Cabinet Secretary for Education, Professor Jacob Kaimenyi. I just don't know, what's the place of this?
Thank you. The highest form of lack of integrity would be when you are able to have wrong people in wrong professions. Mm-hmm. And imagine if you are using a rubber band to measure people's height, what would you arrive at? Now imagine if you went to hospital to be treated by, you took your son to a pediatrician and only to realize that your son was being treated by a mechanic. You'll be so surprised. So what we're putting across is that it's very important that examination results retain the highest level of integrity and quality, because the effects can be so bad to a country. Mm-hmm. And even reputation, when your papers, you can't tell chaff from what is clean, I think it becomes very, very unfortunate. And
Kaburu, did you just set a different question and answer it?
So what we've seen the president do demonstrates
yes,
that the highest office in this country is paying attention to what is happening. Mm-hmm. Because it's about the next generation, it's about the national heritage, mm-hmm, it's about the national pride. Mm-hmm. And if you look at what the Jubilee government has been allocating to the Ministry of Education, mm-hmm, it's very, very important that this kind of briefs are made to the president, mm-hmm, because he has a mandate from the people of this country who have elected him. Mm-hmm. And we need to put it for the record purposes. By the time this government was coming to power, mm-hmm, allocations to the Ministry of Education were just around 250 billion. Mm-hmm. Right now, as we speak, this year, mm-hmm, the government has allocated 424 billion. Mm-hmm. That shows the level of commitment that the government has. And so it's important that such a brief takes place, such conversations take place, so that we're able to see, mm-hmm, whether indeed the officers are able to account for what they are receiving. And secondly, it also provides an opportunity to look at what are the policy implications. Right. For instance, when you have got so many children who have passed exams, what is the policy that government should be able to make? For instance, we've realized in the last 2 years, government has made a policy declaration, mm-hmm, that any student who scores a C+ will get direct admission. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that equally went with that was to open up these spaces to the private universities, which would previously not have had such opportunities, but would, after students have been allocated to the government-supported universities, then now you have got private universities separately advertising. So right, all these things have a lot of policy implication, and that's why you see this kind of conversations happening. So nobody should think that perhaps anything fishy is taking place. I think we're beginning to recognize results that have got high levels of integrity.
Right, and of course, earlier on I was asking Raquel Mugai the reason why the results were delayed, and the few images that we got there are part of the reason why the results had to be delayed until Friday. Of course, you'll remember, or you may know that the president was in Austria until I believe yesterday or the day before. So obviously that event of the Cabinet Secretary going to brief the President was important for him to be in the country. And we also know that the President is at the moment at the University of Nairobi attending the 60th graduation of the University of Nairobi. Dr. Riechi is not there, but we understand that the Deputy President, William Ruto, is part of one of the graduates who is today graduating with a PhD in matters plant ecology. So Dr. William Ruto, congratulations from Citizen TV. Now, there are some viewers who are sending us text messages on 22422. They are sending the index numbers. That's the wrong thing to do. And I saw this when the KCP was being released. So many of you sending index numbers, asking questions, what should they do to get the results? I can confirm to you that Citizen TV has no KCSE results. We're just reporting. And also, the code that you should send your index numbers to is not yet out. The Cabinet Secretary for Education will be sure to release that code. So if you see any information circulating on different social media or even WhatsApp telling you that you need to send your index number to a certain number, that is wrong because it's not yet out. Just someone is trying to play around with you and your money. So don't be fooled. Once the Cabinet Secretary releases the results and indicates the index number to be used, we'll be sure to share it with you. And back to studio. Earlier on, we were talking about what these results mean, and I want to take the conversation forward. For instance, in 2017, 70,000 candidates were able to score a C+ and above, meaning that they can gain direct entry into a university to go and sit for a degree of their choice, or maybe of the choice of some other people who sit at a certain office. So 2018, I would assume that the candidates of 2017 have already joined university. From your experience, what are you seeing with this new way of managing results? What are you able to see the quality of grades and the people who carry them vis-a-vis what used to happen earlier on, and how they're able to cope with the various programs at the university?
Sam, essentially, there isn't much change in terms of the entry behavior of the learners who sat their exams in 2016 or 2017. With those who have been coming to the universities. I think what has happened is with that kind of policy declaration by the Ministry of Education, that those who get C+ and above should be admitted to university is a good thing. The only issue is which university. Now, the fact that there is a central body that admits these candidates, qualifying candidates to join universities, makes some of the universities not very innovative. So what they do, they just wait for their share of students, and in the process you find students being admitted to do courses not of their choice, and not in the universities they wanted. I can give you an example. Right. In a class of 200 students who have been admitted to join University of Nairobi to undertake a Bachelor of Education Science degree program, when I asked them if they really wanted to do Bachelor of Education, and if you find 5 hands stretched up,
yes,
out of 200, that is an exceptional class.
Whoa.
So what we are saying is, it's good that all the qualifying KCSE candidates are admitted to universities, but the tragedy is they are placed or misplaced in some of the courses they are not interested in. And that does not enhance efficiency, because universities should be conducting needs assessments to find out what is it that, which academic programs are required, which skills are required in the labor market. They don't do that, many of them. Yeah. They should be conducting tracer studies of their graduates to follow them in the, into the labor market. So that employers can tell them, yes, like Strathmore did a few years ago. They followed up their graduates of business, and the employers told them, they are good, your graduates are good, but they are good as far as paperwork, right, posting, doing things manually, but we are supposed to be...
Right, and Dr. Riechi will be getting to interrogate what you just said there, because it's pretty interesting. We have a tweet from Samuel Siringi. Dr. Samuel Siringi is a communication consultant at the Education Ministry, and he has quoted, or rather he has tweeted, saying that the CS, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, will be releasing the KCSE 2018 results at 2:15 p.m. at the Examinations Council grounds at Caledonia on Dennis Street Road. So 2:15, that's about 45 minutes from now, 46 to be exact. So do stay tuned. We'll be surely bringing you the analysis and, of course, the insights that you need to take to pay regard to in as far as the education system of the country is concerned. And I want to get on with the conversation that Dr. Riechi is talking about. And I remember during my time, not so many years ago, there used to be the Joint Admissions Board, and of course it transformed to the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. And those days you'd see the cluster points. There used to be various documents of the programs at the various universities and the cluster points that you needed to attain to be enrolled into a certain course. And it used to be very competitive because the quality of grades was different. You had more A's, more A minuses. The top cut of grades was high. I think during my time, the cutoff point was actually a B+. And people, we got disappointed because you wanted to study a certain course, you didn't get there. Now you have a class of, or rather, a cadre of 70,000 candidates who can join the university. Do the cluster points still apply, and how do you share out the candidates, bearing in mind that you have higher demand in terms of the universities? There are more universities, there are more programs now. How do you share out?
Thank you, Sam. COOPS has a formula that it uses, and cut-off points still apply. But that is not the problem. The tragedy with our education our education is not planned. We are so haphazardous in everything that we do. If you ask today the Minister of Education, what are the guidelines around establishing a school? It's chaotic. Anybody can wake up any single day, set up a school. And that's why even you end up with these challenges around teacher shortage, because schools are largely unplanned for. And this explains why universities are in a serious mess. Whereas the world is looking at consolidation, we are looking at fragmentation. And I'll say this without any fear of contradiction. It doesn't make sense to establish a university in every village in this country the way we are doing. The University of Nairobi has capacity to absorb 500,000 students. It has got the land that it requires. It can attract the best human resource in terms of the lecturers. What you should be doing is to expand capacities of these well-established universities. But when we reach a place where we make universities to dish them out the way we are dishing campaign t-shirts, then I think that it becomes very, very unfortunate. Because when you have a university that is allocated 300 students, how will they survive? They can't hire the best faculty. Even if today you told Dr. Riechi that we are going to make you to be the vice chancellor of a university in my village, I'm sure he will not accept. Because it makes sense. I would rather be a mere lecturer at the University of Nairobi than to be sent to a university with all the administrative functions that is not functional. You can attract the human resource, the kind of programs mounted, if you are given 3 students to your program. Bachelor of Science, Forestry Management, and whatever. And you allocated 2 students. Where do you hire lecturers to teach such a course? And such a student requires to be taken through 49 courses. And all this is happening because the individuals that we have bestowed with the responsibility of planning our education are either completely asleep or they do not understand what is their role. And that's why we get ourselves into this kind of mess. And then now back again to our universities. You ask them, and I'll give this challenge to my teacher, Dr. Riechi. When you've been given the 200 students to study education, for instance, because I'm also a teacher and went through the experience in one of the best teacher training universities in this country. What kind of experiences are you given for those 4 years? I can assure you that the kind of experiences that we get in our universities are not desirable. And if you ask someone, for instance, you are a teacher, can you summarize your degree in 1 sentence? I am sure none of us will be able to do that, because it is a hodgepodge of things from everywhere. You're doing some units in psychology. A hodgepodge is like a collage. It's a collage of things from psychology, things from planning, which when you put together, you don't understand how they make what you are supposed to be.
Right.
And I like what Dr. Riechi mentioned about the functionality of our graduates.
Yes.
And one of the questions would be, how do we design these experiences to support our graduates to go and deal with the real challenges? So if you ask our universities, you will be shocked that today they are graduating students and they are not mentioning anything to do with curriculum reforms. So competence-based curriculum, which should have been taken up by universities, our universities are asking KCSE What should you do? Rather than KICD going to them and asking them that, what should we be doing? So they've just become like a sausage making factory that doesn't care about who is going to consume those sausages. You're just producing and producing and producing. So KUPS gets itself in such kind of a mess. So everything is just chaotic. NEC gives you results that don't make any sense. Minister of Education decides to lower cut-off points for teacher training the way it feels like until the court has to intervene. Universities are on their own.
Well, Kaburu, someone listening to you would actually think that nothing is working in the education sector in the country. I said someone listening might think that nothing is working in the education sector in the country. But still on that conversation, 62 universities in the country right now. I believe the public universities are about 22, if I'm not mistaken. And all these 62 have to share these 70,000 candidates that score C+ and above. Including
private universities.
Yes, including private universities. So if you had to do a quick calculation, if it's 62 universities and you have 70,000 candidates, then if it's about equality, then each university could get about 800. But of course, that's not the case. So I would assume that the place of these central placement services so that you're able to also equalize all the universities and the various programs that they have, so that you also look at an assessment of what does the country need and how many candidates can a certain university handle in a certain program. So even as you talk about the abilities of these learners, how then do you suggest that we move forward so that we properly place these candidates for courses that they want and will mean better for the economy of the country?
Thank you, Sam. I think first let me make a correction. We have 70 plus universities and university colleges.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Out of those, 31 are public universities. 31. Mm-hmm. And more, of course, are coming because I'm told, Bomet University is on the way. Samway
in Nandi.
In Nandi and others. Now, that is where I quite agree with my friend Kaburu, that we have, I think, chaos in the planning for the higher education subsector, or to be specific, for university education. Now, with that large number of universities, some of them are not even sustainable, right? Mm-hmm. And what's worse is they have duplicated academic programs. Mm-hmm. So what we see are institutions that are not carrying out their mandates effectively. Yeah, sure. Their mandates, the mandates of universities is first to do research, and secondly, to teach, train, and thirdly, to offer service to society or to community. But most of these universities are effectively doing the second mandate, teaching, not even training.
Yeah. Teaching.
Yeah. So that I am not surprised by the FKE report and others, like the one by the British Council a few years ago and the Inter-University Council of East Africa report, which pointed out that 51% of university graduates in Kenya do not possess employable skills. So what we are saying is, I think if I had to advise government for free,
right,
as the late Mutula Kilonzo used to say,
you're not charging them.
We need to crack a whip, right, on this subsector. Reduce. Kenya does not need more than 10
universities.
Yeah. Right? Public, because private, they are doing business. All right? And if that can be done, like Rwanda. Rwanda is a smaller country, of course. They have what the leadership of the country did.
Right, and of course on your screen you can see some movement at the Kenya National Examinations Council offices at Caledonia Estate, just near Royal Media Services or Citizen TV. I understand that Professor George Magoha, you can see him there making his way to the days. That's the KICD director, Dr. Julius Juan, joining in the entourage, or that will be releasing the results for this year. Of course, the Secretary General for Kenya National Union of Teachers, Wilson Susion, also a nominated member of Parliament, has made his way to the day. So shortly we'll be expecting that the Cabinet Secretary should make her way there. Of course, the communication we have is that the release will be at 2:15 p.m. So we do not know whether it will be earlier or thereafter. But as I said, the communication is at 2:15. So they are taking their seats. We'll wait to see what transpires there. And as we wait for that, there's this whole conversation about disappointment when results are out. So maybe we can spend some few minutes to manage the expectations of the candidates. So a class of 664,000, of course, the ultimate number of the candidates that start the exam will be announced by the Cabinet Secretary. So they'll obviously, if it is in keeping with the normal curve according to the ministry, then there will be those, just very few of them, that you achieve the top cream of the grades, that is A plane, A minus, B plus, and of course talking about from C plus and above, we expect it to be not more than 15%. So there is 85% that are likely to score below a C plus, and there are several opportunities that exist. But then you are a candidate, or you are a parent that has a candidate, and the results are out and you didn't perform as you wished, you didn't score a C plus and above. How then do you manage that sort of a mini crisis?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. And let me just a little bit elucidate on why we have this challenge. Secondary school education in this country is actually in a bigger mess than our universities. Because one, it hasn't really understood what are its goals. And the first goal of secondary education should be to deepen the foundational skills and knowledge that a learner acquired in primary school. Number two, this is supposed to serve as a basis for them for what you call pre-college or getting into careers. This is supposed to be the perfect opportunity for such. But then number three, it's supposed to provide them with an opportunity for them to interpret the world a little bit larger. But our secondary schools have become pre-processing industries for the sausages, in the sense that very little takes place in terms of preparing the children for the outside world. And that's why when our students are sitting for their exams, even one who is known that will score a D minus is given the university application forms. So our secondary schools teach for students to go to the university. Right. And that's why there are very, very poor attitudes around TVET, because nobody ever prepared you to look at TVET as an option. So the discussion around TVET only starts after you've sat for your KCSE and you did not get a C+. Now you're wondering what next. And then our people will be talking about perhaps you could join this particular college, perhaps you could join this particular vocational training college. But now back to this point. The making of a great teacher. What Paulo Freire tells us is that the purpose of education is to teach children not only to read the word, but to be able to read the world. Now, what does it mean for the children to be able to read the world? That means it takes us back to the very fundamental purpose of education, which is education for survival. That will a child come out of our school system and begin to see opportunities that lie ahead, so that they're not just looking at education in the sense that it's going to give me a job, but this is what facilitates them to be creative around solving their problems. And that's what we've seen, that even you could be having people with PhD, but who can still not look at problems in the society. Do you understand why when you're doing your research, you're told that the first thing that you need to do is to define the problem? Why was research constructed around problems? It's because life is about problems. So your research is supposed to be supporting into getting a particular solution. So we need to get back into helping our children to be able to identify problems within their lives and be able to use the experience that they have got to solve it. But very, very specifically, these children have sat for the KCSE examination. This is the message that we have to give to them. Number one, life is full of disappointments. But when life gives you disappointment, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the end of life. And there's this clip I was watching it the other day, which was talking about when you reach a point in time and you feel like you should end your life. What should you do? Just try covering your nose for 2 minutes. What is going to happen after 2 minutes? The body will tell you that we don't care about your problems. I want to live. And you will be forced to remove your hand from where where you had put it. And therefore, problems in life are not the end in itself.
Right.
And one of the things why this conversation has to go beyond the school system to encourage parents, communities, even churches and mosques to have this conversation is the reality that our children are still growing. And today what they might really think to be very, very fancy because they wanted to do a degree in medicine, 2 to 3 years down the line, they will realize that perhaps there are other new opportunities that they went through. Because when you look at our children, most of them hardly know of careers beyond the 4 traditional areas.
Right.
Medicine, engineering, law, and education. But as now they begin to interact with life, they will realize that life is bigger than what they were actually doing. So we should just be supporting our children to see these opportunities rather than beginning to give up at this point in time.
Right, and just before Dr. Riechi comes in on that, I want us to cross over to the Kenya National Examinations Council headquarters, the offices where the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Amina Mohammed, will be releasing the results at 2:15, and Raquel Mugai is still there. Raquel, we've seen a few of the officials and the entourage of the Cabinet Secretary making their way and taking their seats at the dais. What can we expect, and so far, what have you heard? What do we know?
We have been able to see the chairman of the Kenya National Examination Council, Professor George Magoha, as well as other education officials, including Wilson Sosion, who's the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers. We're still waiting for CS for Education Ambassador Amina Mohammed to arrive, but she is within this particular premises. Therefore, we do expect that in a few minutes she'll be able to walk in, and so that we can start on matters of the 2018 KCSE results. But it's definitely a very tense moment for parents as well, and especially for students who sat for the examination this year. Many wondering what will happen next, given the kind of pressure that usually is mounted on students in terms of getting that particular grade, the best grade, to get a position or secure a position or a chance at the university. But there has been a campaign, or more a conversation by the Ministry of Education towards engaging this particular students in matters tertiary institutions, rather than just having a university education or just being able to conduct a degree. If we can remember, just this year, the Treasury tripled the amount allocated to technical and vocational training institutions in the 2018-2019 budget, being increased from 6 billion to at least 16 billion, just to try, the biggest aim being to instill skills to drive industrialization as well as the Big Four agenda. But it's something that will get to take a lot of, if we can say, a lot of education, or trying to also just educate the parents and teach and students on why the technical and vocational training institutions are important in trying to build skills and to instill skills, and also make the students get to employ themselves. But it's something that has not been embraced fully in terms of students looking at vocational institutions as another option, or the other option, if not apart from joining university. And it's something that it's a conversation that should be had, even as education officials have usually stated. There are more than 200 technical institutes being run by the national government that are set to admit those students who attain the grades between C to D+, just to equip them with crucial skills. But at the end of this, at the announcement of this results, how many will be able to encourage their students or encourage the children to join this vocational training institutions? And that is where the gap has been usually, where even as these results get to be released, we get to hear a lot of cases, and most unfortunate cases, where we do find that there are students who've committed suicide because they could not achieve a certain grade. And that is a conversation that has been had over the recent years, especially even this year, when they're trying to look at just changing that perspective of not attaining a secondary, or not attaining and university degree does not mean that is the end of life. And even as the results get to be released, it's something that also parents are looking at, to look at what next now after the results have been released this year.
All right, thank you so much, Raquel. As she said there, that the Cabinet Secretary is the person that, everyone is waiting for. But as I told you earlier, is that in the meantime, the graduation ceremony of the University of Nairobi is still underway, where Dr. William Ruto was graduating with a PhD in plant ecology while there. And of course, the president is also said to be in attendance, so be sure to see how those events play around as we wait for the release of the results. But back to the conversation. Of course, we are receiving quite a number of text messages, and I just want to reiterate or repeat that I understand the tense moment that the candidates must be going through, but just this is an honest reminder that Citizen TV does not have KCSE results. So those who are texting on 22422, please stop, because we cannot send you your results. We can only help you to know that the code that you will be sending your index numbers to as soon as the Cabinet Secretary releases the results. But there is someone, Njoki from Mombasa, has texted us saying that, hello, it's true, universities are just teaching, not training. I pursued a Bachelor of Science General, never assigned attachment, and it is now years with no job since I lack the experience.
Exactly. So unfortunate.
Of course, a Bachelor of Science General is not a joke at the university, but now you end up without a degree, without a job or something to do. Someone else says that my son with an A- was placed for an engineering degree at Egerton University. After 2 years, we confirmed from the board that it is not accredited. He is desperate now. He went back to the placement service, but was never helped. I just don't know how rampant such cases are, but there has been, someone else is asking, which number can I use to send my index number to get the results? We still don't know. We still don't have a response to that. We'll be sure to give you as soon as we know. We want to take a short break, but when we return, we'll be responding to some of the issues that you're raising, as well as getting to the point of hearing from Dr. Riechi what you can do once you get the results of your KCSE. Back in a moment.